What is goody, everybody? So, I'm officially back again with a so fresh and so new video. And this video is going to be focused on the NBA draft within this year. So, it's within like 2 weeks. So, I thought this would be a perfect timing for me to drop the guide on what should we do and what should we not do. Because if I'm being real, a lot of the Clipper community, I'd say like at 80%, like they do not look into prospects whatsoever. Like me and my homie Clip Ganger Don't Bang and maybe CM, we look at the prospects like a good amount, so we're probably like one of the only few. So pretty much I'm gonna just give essentially like my guide on what the Clippers could do in this in the NBA draft because so, first and foremost, like I'm just doing like a little intro before I head to this video. Like I feel like the NBA draft is like really like underrated. Like people would always just dismiss all the players in the draft as they're just unproven. We want a proven piece. Oh, the Clippers should get what I'm saying, Rudy Gobert, Tyus Jones, all that. But me, I'm just saying, nah, let's not try to do too much. Let's not try to, impress the whole entire media. We want to do what's actually good for the Clippers. And the NBA draft has a lot of prospects that could bring like whether it's immediate impact right now or a great impact for the long term in the future. Like But anyways, let's just dig into what the Clippers should do. So first objective is the Clippers should take an agile or like a versatile big that can shoot threes, or like a big rebounding bruiser like a DeMarcus Cousins type player that is like a big man, or take a power forward, or essentially, basically, our target is take a center and a power forward because this draft class is like essentially like a center power forward oriented type draft class. Like so pretty much for our big man, Ivica Zubac, he's improving. He's pretty solid, but he's essentially like kind of like the only secure spot, but we don't even know if he's a secure spot because like he still has a player option, but I assume the Clippers will accept his player option, well, team option, and he's probably going to stay on the team despite on what a lot of the Zubac haters in the Clipper community say. And Hartenstein's the only other big. Um, we don't know if he's going to stay or he's probably going to dip with another team because he might get more money. So definitely go for a big man because we have a lot of moments that we struggled, like whether it's getting rebounds or defending in the pick and roll because our bigs, they're pretty solid. They're not like the worst in the world, but like they're more like fit in the 1990s or the 2000s era just because like none of them could really shoot comfortably, but Hartenstein's trying to get that range. But I would just recommend trying to take a big man in this draft class just because that's where like all the talented bigs are. Like, and then let's just say like a Yannick Nazoza or Travion Williams could work. Like, and then next is just take a prospect that is a really high upside and that is like 19 years old preferably. Like with me, I just like to take the younger prospects. Like I would not really be big on taking the older prospect unless if that person has the good upside. Like because I'm not that big on taking like older prospects like 22, 23 because that is like when their ceilings will be like a lot lower, and essentially you want to try to get the best of the best possible. And then next is definitely the Clippers should take Leonard Miller and Yannick Nazoza. Well, this is just a more like an opinionated type thing. I'll actually make my little like the Clippers big board on who to take in general. So basically Leonard Miller is just a versatile player in general. He's like 6'11". He could essentially play like all four position, maybe even the five to a certain extent, but he's more like a guard, but it's like in a 6'11" body, so you could kind of make him like the power forward, and then he'd be a like a nightmare wreck for other like for average power forwards to guard him because he's just so shifty. And Yannick Nzosa, we all know, this is my original agenda to make the Clippers do. Shout out to Clip Game Domain. He was the first one to push it, and then me and Clip Game Domain, we both are like the first one who was initially like pushed the agenda, but it was more him than I just want to try to spread the message. But basically, yeah, Yannick, he can solve a lot of our problems. He's lightning quick in the pick and roll. He's very athletic. He's a really good shot blocker. And essentially, he could do a lot of things that Rudy Gobert could do, but he's even a lot faster. And you don't have to give up a whole lot of assets to just get Rudy Gobert. And then, next step is essentially the Clippers should trade like some of our like wing depth or our shooting guard depth that is obviously not Kawhi, PG, Brandon Boston, Scrub, or Team Man, just to stockpile with our draft capital because essentially almost everybody in the Clippers roster has like a good amount of value, and we could definitely get like a first round pick in return for sure, especially when it comes to Marcus Morris. Because Marcus Morris, he's been in the hot seat of trade rumors, and I'm more than okay with moving Marcus Morris, especially if it's a first round pick, so we could get guys like, I'm saying like a Leonard Miller or a Nikola Jovic or heck maybe a Jaden Hardy or Dominic Barlow or all these guys, and then yeah, like I said, like to get more draft capitals and and have more young talent, like just when the veterans, like let's just say Rocco, Batum, Reggie, Kawhi, PG, they get old, we're not gonna be in ground zero, like because all the young guys we have, they're just gonna get to experience like how Jordan Poole from the Golden State Warriors is, and who will still be a great team that will always contend for the chips. And then last thing I said for the to do is buy some draft picks. Just basically, I believe that we should try to stockpile as many draft picks as we can because we have a lot of veterans, and then we could definitely try to fill up our power forward depth and our center depth essentially. Because now let's just go back to objective one on why we should target our center and power forward depth. Because center depth I kind of addressed it, but I'm gonna just address it again because our center they're more like in the traditional era. Like it's not like they're bad or anything, but we could definitely use a big man that is like a lot more dominant, that could grab rebounds or who could literally crash you down in the paint and get some crazy dunk. Or we could use like a Jared Allen type player, like Yannick Nzosa, who is lightning quick and guarding the pick and roll and is a pretty good shot blocker and gets the job done. Because it will help us so much in the current NBA to have an agile big that could guard the small ball teams like the Mavericks or the Warriors. But at the same time, when you face like a big man oriented team like the Denver Nuggets or the Lakers, you could still essentially dominate, and you don't have to essentially go small if you just take an agile big, or if you just somehow find like a really big bruiser big man. Like we could just simply just crash him down low and just simply get some good posters, like let's just say a Travion Williams. But for me, I'm not too insane. Travion Williams is definitely like a really good backup option, but it's definitely not my main objective. Like me, if I want a big man, go for Yannick Nzosa. But the next one, I think is like even a way more important objective is get a power forward, because all of our power forwards, they're pretty old. You see Robert Covington, he's a great power forward to have, but he's 31 years old. Nick Batum, he's also pretty darn old. He's 32, 33 years old or something like that. And Marcus Morris, he's pretty good, but pretty good scorer. But when he's off, he's off. So we could definitely try to use a young power forward, like a guy like EJ Liddell, Dominic Barlow, or my number one option, Leonard Miller. We need to take Leonard Miller, my guy. We need to take Leonard Miller because, who, Leonard Miller, if we get Leonard Miller, it's like the equivalent of getting, like, what can I put this? It's like buying a Lamborghini for $5,000 because dude has, the upside is there. Like, he has the guys who can mentor him. Like, you could go for Rocco, PG, Kawhi, everybody, and he could be a monster. He could be a monster. Like, I know, like, a lot of people, they want to make, like, big moves in the off season just to get, like, you know, the proven piece. But for me, like, I believe it's just better if we focus on more on, just clearing up the logjam to so actual young talents like Jay Scrubb and Brandon Boston Jr. could eventually get the actual minutes, or Jason Preston as well too. Like, so they can get the actual minutes while, if we get some other like pieces to fill up our holes in our power forward and our center. Now let's go to the don't do's. Now, do not, I repeat, do not. Do not take a shooting guard over small forward unless if it's a freak accident like a Shadon Sharp, which is no way in heck Shadon will fall, but if he does fall, then take him. Just take Shadon Sharp. I don't care about the logjam or whatever, but most scenarios, just don't take a shooting guard. Please, 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 please do not take a small forward or a shooting guard. Unless if they're versatile enough to play the point guard or the power forward or the, center. But other than that, please do not just take a pure shooting guard or a small forward because, boy, we have way too much small forward and shooting guards, man. Because can you imagine, like, if we actually draft one and then it's just going to be a bigger logjam? Then Brandon Boston Jr. would definitely not get any minutes whatsoever, or it's just going to be a wasted pick because our shooting guard depth, like, starting PG, Norman Powell, Luke Kennard, Amir Coffey, Scrub, and then our small forward would be Kawhi, Brandon Boston, Marcus Morris, Amir Coffey, or whatever, because, like, shooting guard and small forward are pretty interchangeable, so that's why I believe we could consolidate some of our shooting guard and small forward depth. Like, let's just say, like, mostly the two players I'm willing to consolidate to get some more draft capital is Marcus Morris and, to a certain extent, Amir Coffey, just because, like, like, Marcus Morris, he pretty much, like, he already hit his, like, he's already 30 plus years old, but he brings a lot of value. And Amir Coffey, just because, like, Amir Coffey just probably wants, like, a bigger bag because he kind of, like, proved himself in a way. And plus, hey, more minutes for Jay Scrubb, so that is beautiful. That is beautiful. And plus, you could definitely get some good draft capitals as well, too. Like, and then use that to draft a power forward. But then, next one is, do not draft, like, a low upside prospect. Like, this is, like, a huge critical weakness of the Clippers when it comes to drafting. Because, boy, they always settle for these darn, like, 22 years old, 21 years old players, and then they just draft them over, like, a really high upside prospect. Like, I mean, Terrence Mann, he was, like, a success, but, I mean, especially, like, they would do something like they would draft Jerome Robinson over Michael Porter Jr., or, like, I mean, I'm cool with drafting, like, an older prospect if they bring, like, the upside. Like, let's just say, for example, Travion Williams, he's, like, what, a senior, but he could still bring up the upside just because he is a big bruiser, and he's a really good rebounder, and he's a really good playmaker, so that can help. Or E.J. Liddell could work perfectly because he's a junior. He's pretty old, but at the same time, though, he has the athleticism, and he is, like, the really good power forward that you would want to have. Like, he has, like, a David West, PJ Tucker, Draymond Green type. His three-point shot improved, and, a rock-solid defender. So I'm cool with taking guys like that, but, I mean, For me, I just like to draft younger. I like to draft like the 18 and 19 years old because I'm all about the upside. I'm all about the upside. Now, the next don't do's is just pretty much the same thing as what I addressed earlier is do not chicken out of a high upside prospect just because you see a flaw. Now, the Clippers, oh my goodness, I cannot stress you how many times they've done this. Like, so let's start back to 1996. Kobe Bryant, he was available. The Clippers passed up on Kobe Bryant just because he's quote unquote too young and he's 17 years old. Like, could you imagine passing up a dude just because he's 17 years old despite him having all the talent? Like, if anything, that should be the motivation on why you should draft Kobe Bryant because imagine if he's 20 years old, he'd be like wreaking havoc to the league, which is he did, and the Clippers, they embarrassed themselves in 1996. But anyways, let's fast forward. So 2018, the Clippers definitely chickened out big time, bruh. Like, come on, bruh. Like, imagine taking Jerome Robinson. Jerome Robinson, who was projected to be a second rounder, over Michael Porter Jr. just because he got the injury. Boy, if Michael Porter Jr. got two torn Achilles, I'm still taking him over Jerome Robinson, bro. Because Michael Porter, he was a beast in high school. And kind of a beast in Nathan Hale, too. Because that boy can do everything, man. He can shoot. He can dribble. He can do. And he's 6'11". Like, come on. He has the talent. And you just see that little. You just see, like, the critical flaw. And you just chicken out. Like, you really, oh, nah. Like, bruh. Like, nah. That's a huge weakness, bro. Like, at least, like, if Michael Porter was a bust, you could at least use him for trade value because he was a big name coming into the draft. And I'll give you a recent one when the Clippers chickened out. And we chickened out last year, bro. We took Jason Preston. Like, I know a lot of Clipper community, they all love Jason Preston. And now I'm starting to warm my heart to Jason Preston. Seems to be a really good dude, educated man, hard worker, overcame the odds. But we took Jason Preston over Sharif Cooper. Like, if y'all have been watching my channel for like the past year, you would understand how mad I was when we passed up Sharif Cooper. Like, the sole reason why the Clippers took a 3 years junior over Sharif Cooper, who dropped 20 points per game and dropped 8 assists per game, who was a monster during high school. He was homies with Brandon Boston Jr. Like, the reason why the Clippers decided to take a 3 years into college prospect who's already 21 years old, who who has some good upside, I'll admit. It's like a good playmaker, but he's not he can't really shoot free throws for some reason and doesn't average 20 points a game. Like, the reason why we took him over Sharif Cooper, because supposedly Sharif Cooper is too small. Bro, no one is perfect, bro. Like, come on now. Come on now. Like, bro, the the dude has the talent, bro, and you just see that critical flaw. Like, just because a person has a flaw does not mean, oh, they're gonna be a bust. Like, you work on it. You work on it. And Sharif, man, he'd be so good with the Clippers, man. Like, he could just hit a Reggie Jackson or Luke Kennard or, yeah, obviously Kawhi Paul George to kind of teach him and all that, and he could still be a pretty darn good player. Of course, Sharif doesn't seem like he's a good player, but it's essentially because he's behind Trae Young and all that, so good luck getting minutes under Trae Young. But anyways, like, my point is, when you see a really high talented prospect, just don't overthink it. Don't overthink it. Just take the dude, bruh. Just take him. Of course, the person's not going to be perfect. The person's not going to be perfect. But the Clippers have a lot of veterans that can work with him, man. especially the best basketball player in the world, and MVPG, one of those most smoothest basketball player in the world. Like, I mean, of course, bro. Like, all the best basketball players in the world, they had a lot of flaws too. I mean, Steph Curry, like, he was considered to be physically weak when he was entering the draft, or let's just say, who else? Kawhi Leonard himself, the best basketball player in the world himself, he was not able to shoot, but they still took him. Like, basically, when the upside's there, just take him. Just take him. Just take him. Simple as that. Next step. Um, and next, not to do. So, I would say I would try to refrain from taking a point guard, not because we don't necessarily need a point guard, but it's just because the talent of the point guard in this draft class is just not too insanely exciting. Like if we get Jaden Hardy, that would be sick. But other than that, like there's not too many point guards that's like after the 20s that is that impressing. I mean, Jan Montero could be a solid option, I guess, but his upside is like like kind of like a fringe all-star role player, like a Dennis Schroeder or JD Davis, who's like a wild card, which is that could be cool, I guess, but I'd rather stick with getting a center or a power forward. And Kenny Chandler, like solid player, but his upside is a pretty good role player. But I'd rather wait one more year for the year 2023 to get a franchise point guard like a Amen Thompson or a Sky Clark or a Dior Johnson. Like that's just my opinion on like when to get our franchise point guard. So like, but like if it's like a guy like Jaden Hardy, I mean I just might as well just take him just because Hardy was a monster in high school. Like dropped 30 points per game and 8 assists per game as well in high school. And I know he had like a little down year in the G League, but I mean look at Brandon Balls. He had a down year in Kentucky, but yet he's killing it in the league. So that is that. And but I mean basically I'm just give like the cons of taking like a point guard in this draft class that is not the high upside. Like let's just say we take a guy like let's just say Kennedy Chandler, right? So if we take Kennedy Chandler, like let's just say best case scenario, he becomes a really good role player. But but then is it gonna have like a weird clash with Jason Preston? So next year we go into the next year and we draft that, which will be a guard dominated class. But I kind of changed my tone on the point guard a little bit. Like I would like if I made this like 2 months ago, I would say did not take a point guard period, but now, like, if the point guard seems right to us, I mean, I'll be cool with it. But still, I just prefer a power forward or a center. But anyways, let's just say like Kenny Chandler becomes a solid player, then next year, 2023 comes, there's gonna be like strictly a lot of guards, like let's just say Amen Thompson, Sky Clark, or Dear Johnson. Like the Clippers might have to settle to take a low upside prospect. So that's just my little concern of taking like a point guard. But I mean, if the point guard's good, I'm cool with taking it because might as well. Next year we can still take a big man in Derek Lively. So that's that. So that's another like it's like not a strictly don't do, but it's like kind of like in a mediocre like just try to refrain from taking a point guard. But if we take, I'd rather but first and foremost, I know like literally like 80% of the Clipper community just basically like pushing this point guard agenda. Oh, the Clippers need a point guard. Clippers need a point guard. Blah 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 blah. But I mean, I'd rather just try to get a point guard, a small point guard like in the free agency, like maybe like a John Wall or something like that. Like I don't know, like just because like just take some of the load off of Reggie Jackson or Ty Lue could just make some tricks of that, like maybe who knows, running Paul George at the point guard because Paul George would be a pretty good point guard because his playmaking improved a lot. And then the last is I'd say don't just simply trade the pick for a proven piece. Now the Clippers traded this second round pick for like something good. I guess I cannot be too mad at it, but I mean I feel like the Clippers should be more like of like trying to get more draft picks rather than just trying to keep like trading for like a proven name, because like it's just gonna like kind of like just only help us in the current term, but in the long term it's gonna kind of like hurt us in a way. And but basically, like, think of the NBA draft as like an investment. Like me, I'm I'm the type of guy that would just rather invest and rather than just getting some fancy clothes and all that, because like that's what that's like kind of like my little analogy of it. Like, let's just say getting Rudy Gobert or getting Dame Lillard is kind of like the equivalent of getting a Lamborghini or getting like a PlayStation 5 and everything. Like, for right now, we already have all the luxury items with us. Like, if anything, we kind of have a little bit too much. We have a little too much Lamborghinis inside of our um, garage. So we could just might as well ship some of the Lamborghinis to make some investment that who knows that could be a lot better. Like, like basically, what I'm trying to say is we have like so much talent that I feel like we could just consolidate to better us for like the immediate term and the long term. Like, especially what I mean by that we have too much talent is like especially in our shooting guard or our small forward. So we could definitely like consolidate that for, let's just say, like for some more draft picks. Like, I don't know, just let me know what you guys think essentially. But like, cause we like, so let's break down the starting five. So point guard, we have Reggie Jackson, who is Mr. June. Yes, he has his little swing factors, but he's been like a Clipper hero. But yet, but like our point guard depth is not like the prettiest, but I mean we could kind of like it could work, because then you have Jason Preston, who's coming out from the bench. Like, I know a lot of people would not really trust Jason Preston, like just straight up just being the backup, but I mean he could definitely be a solid one. Like, he's not like he won't be like that bad because he has the IQ and everything. You also have Xavier Moon too, who could be decent, I guess. And then the Clippers could just just try to like snag like a little bit backup, I guess, or you could kind of like just make some like rotational tweaks. And then shooting guard, we have the ideal shooting guard. We have obviously like let's just say other than PG, you got Norman Powell, Luke Kennard. Like Luke Kennard, you could kind of move him at the point guard, I guess. Um, you got Jay Scrubs as a shooting guard. You got but yeah, that's our shooting guard. And then small forward, we got Kawhi, of course, Brandon Boston, Amir Coffey, Marcus Morris would kind of be the small forward at times. Um, and then power forward, we have Rocco, we have Batum, and I guess like Marcus Morris will be the tweener, like he'll be the small forward or the power forward. And then the center, we got Zubac and Harnstein. So essentially, like, that is some talent over there. So I mean, like, we kind of have our position like filled to a certain extent. Like, of course, like as you guys know, like the power forward and the center position is kind of like filled up, and like I just don't want to do anything too shabby, like just trade a whole entire fortune for like a Rudy Gobert when you could get like a guy like Yannick Nzosa who essentially like could do the stuff that Rudy Gobert could do, but just a lot more raw. Or like I don't want the Clippers to do anything too crazy, like let's just say um, go all in and trade for like a John Collins or anything like that, when you could get a guy like EJ Liddell or a Dominic Barlow who could just kind of like take some like mentorship from Robert Covington, but eventually become like a lot of the better player, and could eventually make like it could make like an immediate impact to a certain extent. So that's that. So that's just my personal philosophy. That just get as much draft capital as we could. So just let me know about what you think personally of like the NBA draft guide. So that should just wrap up the video. Just be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll definitely try to chat with y'all in the comment section. And as y'all know, have a great night or have a great day if it's daytime, and peace.